Well, it's Friday night, and I got you to spend the night with. It's time to celebrate, and we're going to start our evening with a live stream YouTube video.
And sharing the evening with you for just a few minutes.
And we hope that we'll have someone to share the evening with. That's why I'm changing the times around a little bit, but I'm doing these live streams several times a week. And we haven't discussed this. Typically on Sundays, I also like to do a longer live stream of about, say, an hour, half hour to an hour length, so we can get people's questions in. And I just been so busy this week. I just have not gotten it scheduled yet. So I don't know if we'll be doing it yet or not, but you can kind of keep an eye out for that. And that would be most likely on Sunday then at 5 or 6 o'clock. But then during the week, generally I'll do a couple live streams. Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays are the most common days that I do the live streams. Those are the days that Kat is
more
able to always, yes.
At least right now.
That's right now anyway. And she's got, well, I'll just ask you, what is it that you're doing on Thursday and Friday?
On Thursday and Friday, or Tuesday?
Oh, excuse me, Tuesday and Thursday.
Tuesday and Thursday, I am a nanny. And so that's where my income is coming in from right now. But as we transition to growing our coaching business and our transformational business, then that will be transitioning out at some point. And
so since the topic here is what you wish you knew 10 years ago, you know, that certainly 10 years ago, your life was a lot different than it is today.
Yes.
And but the reason why you get paid better than what most nannies do is you work for, find people that can afford your level of skills when it comes to young children.
This is true.
And so you have a lot of expertise in that area.
I do. 10 years ago, I was a preschool and child care administrator, and had built a career. Let's see, 10 years ago would have been about my 20-year mark. Of being in early childhood education, starting that as a teacher, and then growing into administration, and having a wide variety of positions at very high state levels, down to working in individual centers. So I have a lot of experience working with young children and families, parents as well.
And so the topic for tonight is to think back 10 years ago, and what in your life do you wish you knew 10 years ago? And so we're going to come back and touch on a little more of a work situation here in a moment, because we'll take the section by section. To start out with, let's talk about, let's introduce ourselves.
That's always a good thing.
I'm Non-Monogamous Mark.
And I'm Badass Kat.
And we are the co-founders of Non-Monogamous Lifestyles Association, which is our nonprofit business. And we have our for-profit business, which is
Magnetic Lifestyles.
And so Non-Monogamous Lifestyles Association is an association where we help people to thrive in their non-monogamous life.
That's right.
And so we pretty much, our sole focus is non-monogamous people. Now, with our other business, though, we don't just focus on non-monogamous people.
No, we are open to working with people of, we'll call them a highly diverse population. And are we talking about our specific niche, or just?
Well, you can just do whatever you want to talk about. And so as we move forward in the next couple of years, though, is that we find that in kind of opening up our bucket, so to speak, so that we're not just focused on non-monogamous people, then we are just living our lives. And by living our lives openly as non-monogamous people, we oftentimes will have people that are coming to us that have never been involved in non-monogamy before, and they're interested or curious, or they come to us and they're cheating. And they would rather be involved in ethical and consensual non-monogamy.
That's right.
And so we do have great opportunities in reaching out to this other community and not just focusing on the non-monogamous
That's
community.
right.
It opens doors.
It absolutely does. And we actually do have a branch within Magnetic Lifestyles that does focus on people who are ECNM or ethical and consensual non-monogamous people, and really helping them to build their best authentic self and build their best authentic ECNM life.
And so then I'll just say to take a look down in the description box, and there's a link down there where you can get a free 30-minute strategy session, because one of the things that we go over is that there are all kinds of things that are holding our lives back as we move forward. And that's why today we're going to talk about 10 years ago. What held us back over the last 10 years? And there's all kinds of things that end up holding us back. And so, for instance, then with our first topic, which is health and wellness, let's define that first. We started out just talking about health like 5 years ago. But then because people think of health too much in terms of the American healthcare system, we started to kind of tweak that a little bit. And because we don't have a healthcare system in America, we have a dependent care system. It's really designed to create a dependent client base, customers that have to come back, and they're willing to spend any amount of money that they have to spend. And because, the proof of that is that 10 years ago, we were talking about how much our insurance costs us, and we're going to solve this problem through all kinds of government programs. And yet our insurance is triple the cost it was 10 years ago. And so they haven't solved a thing. Because as long as people become dependent on that medical system, that healthcare system, where then they're willing to pay anything in order to have that doctor prescribe a pill or do a surgery or whatever that they'll do, but it all is about creating dependence.
Absolutely.
And so one of the things then for me is that I decided it was about 15 years ago, I wasn't going to go down that road.
Great.
And so I started to learn about how to live a life that is well, because our bodies want to be well.
They do.
And that's something that you didn't know 10 years ago.
No, 10 years ago, 9 years ago, I had a stroke at the age of 41. And that was a very significant experience, but I had no idea how to move forward from that other than to be in the medical system.
And then when we met, you were on several medications, prescriptions, that you just figured that would be your rest of your life.
That's what the doctor tells you. So that's what you do, because I truly didn't know any better.
And why aren't you on those medications today?
This guy,
and
he helped educate me, and he gave me the opportunity to educate myself. It was never, you need to do this or you should do this. It is, here's something to think about. Here's something you might want to research. Here's some links to get you started. And then he left it in my hands.
Yeah, and you see, your doctor doesn't know other options, because they are taught in med school, where they go into a lot of debt to get through med school, and then to go out and go into the practice of medicine, they go into even more debt, and they have to have a way then of being able to pay all that debt back, and they're not going to get that paid back by making people well.
No, prescribing vegetables doesn't pay the bills.
And so they don't even teach the doctors in school, or the nurses or medical people in our medical industry. They don't even teach them that there are solutions out there. So as far as the doctor knows, and this is one of the things I certainly heard over my life, is that, there's no solution for you other than take these pills.
Right.
You know?
Yep. And even just recently I went to my doctor, and my cholesterol was a little bit higher than it was the last checkup. And it was, and I'm like, I will figure out a way. I need to adjust something in my eating, or I need to exercise more, or whatever it is, I will find the solution in order to stay off the prescriptions.
And so one of the things in my journey then was watching documentaries.
Mhm.
That's been the biggest thing that has helped me to learn the things that I didn't know, 10 years ago, that you didn't know 10 years ago.
Yep.
And the truth of that is, or the I guess the pudding, what's that saying?
The proof is in the
The
pudding.
proof that's in the pudding. That's what I'm looking for. Is with both of us, our spouses 10 years ago were living human beings.
They were.
And yeah.
Were.
And neither one of them were living today. And we
No.
didn't have anything to do with that. In
No,
fact,
no, we didn't.
I did all I could for 20 years with
Mhm.
my wife, trying to help her to turn into a different direction
Mhm.
with her eating.
Mhm.
And I said that's really all she needed.
Right.
It was to turn it into a different direction with her
Mhm.
eating. It didn't need to do anything overnight to
No.
be drastic, but just take and make slow, gradual changes
Yeah.
in what you're doing.
And we talked about the same thing in my marriage, and neither one of us did anything about it. So for me, it wasn't that I was trying to move someone else. I was stuck in the same thing myself. We would have conversations. Well, we shouldn't buy so many cookies and chips and things at the market. We need to be eating healthier. But then when we go to the market, we buy the things that we say that we're not going to buy anymore. And we continued in that cycle.
And I made a video, that was yesterday, just a short 4-minute video. And one of the things that I said in that video is that people, they just need to give themselves more options,
Mm-hmm.
because you're so entrenched in the way that you're doing things.
Yes.
With your health and your fitness and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
You're just so entrenched, and yet look at where it's taking you.
Yeah.
And so that when I look back 10 years ago, the thing that I could take and really, it's not for myself because I was on a good trajectory,
Mm-hmm.
but I just wish somehow, because I didn't have the voice then to talk to thousands of people like I do today.
Right.
But I just wish somehow that I could help people to know and to understand better that you do have other options.
Mm-hmm.
And as you open up your available options, instead of just your narrow mind that says, this is what I've got to do,
Yeah.
and like my video said yesterday, that when you open up your options, you start to move away from your problem. You don't have to change anything in your life. You're still the same person. And when you open up an option, all you have to do is step into it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the processes that we teach in our business, and helping people to create a magnetic life that is the life that they love the most. They couldn't possibly love their life more. And so we help you to learn those skills so that you can open up your options and just step into a new you.
Beautiful.
And so is there anything else then on the thing is, I guess for me, is I want people to know that the body's default mechanism is wellness.
Yes.
That's what I told
true.
you.
That
And
is
that's what I taught you. The body wants to be well, and we are not taught and given the skills to listen to what our body is trying to tell us and trying to teach us. We're taught basically go and do something to take care of it quickly and cover it up and just make yourself feel better.
Right.
But then as you, in the process of doing that, you're harming your body and you're creating more dependency. Right. You're not really making your body well.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, even with the prescriptions that I was on, they were only masking the symptoms and taking the symptoms away, but they never, ever addressed the root cause. And so what we do is when we have something going on in our bodies, we really listen and tune in so that we can discover what the root cause is. And that might take some time.
Sometimes there's trial and error.
Yeah. Sometimes you start with a symptom and you figure out something with that symptom, and that leads you to the next piece. And then that leads you to the next piece and the next piece. But it's a journey to not mask the symptom, but to discover why.
The last couple of years, you've had a situation where it's got progressively worse the last couple of years.
Yes, I have.
And that was, just your ability to eat food without getting heartburn and these kinds of things. Of course, you could have run out and just got a bottle of antacids.
I could have.
And that's what my wife did.
Yeah.
And she took a big bottle of Tums every week of antacids, and she did that for most of her life.
Yeah.
And didn't always go through one in a week, but she just always had this really bad indigestion. And so when you start to go and look for a way to just get rid of the pain and discomfort, and you mask it, you're not making it well. Yeah. You're not making it go better and go away. No. You're just making it so that you can live with it.
Exactly.
And that is that's the mistake.
Yeah.
And so we didn't do that.
No.
You didn't take any antacids over the last couple of years.
I haven't.
And so then we finally, because we really talked to people, and we researched online, and 10 years ago there wasn't as much material out there online. So fortunate today, there's so many resources for you. And so by then doing all this, we really came and figured out, because we had no idea whether it was something that it's going to require surgery or it was an ulcer, or we had no idea what was going on in that gut of hers. All we knew is that she was getting sick several times a week. Yeah. And she went to England on a 2-week trip, and she was in the hotel room a couple nights on this trip, sick.
Yeah.
And so then we went to China last September. And so in the very first part of August, I says, okay, we are going to, because the reality is that we oftentimes do better when we have our partners there in support with us.
Absolutely.
And over the last 3 years, I've spent 70% of my time gone.
Yeah.
And so I'd come home each time, we'd go out to dinner and we'd do something, and I'd see her suffering, and we'd talk about things, but we would never end up doing anything.
No.
So
you'd be off again.
Because I'd be off again.
Either a short period of time, and then you'd be gone for a very long time.
That's right.
And it was very easy for me to just slip back into my old patterns and my old eating and not address anything.
Now there you go again. You're talking about our business, because that's exactly it. We decided not to use the board, but I could use the board now. It's just we have these. We start moving in the direction we want to go, and boom! Before we know it, we are curved and turned right back around.
That's right.
And this is the importance of community, and that's one of the things that we provide our program and our people involved with us, is we provide them with a community that's going to help them to keep moving their life forward. And in this case, we're moving their life forward in the direction of wellness, not in a direction of dependence, because we want you to have an abundant life that is free of, and it means it's got to be healthy.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so then in August, then I knew we were going to China in September, and I did not want you to be getting sick when we were in China.
I didn't want to get sick either.
And I didn't go to England with her 2 years ago, fortunately. Otherwise, I think I probably would have been a little upset. And but I just said to her, I put my foot down a little bit and said, okay, we are going to start trying lots of different things and find some solution here. And so we just started trying different things, and sure enough, it's gotten, like, I'd say 90% better. Not 100% better, but 90% better.
And it really does depend on certain things that I eat.
Yeah.
As well as doing my daily regimens of probiotics and beet juice and all sorts of things that I've discovered that actually help keep my body at a wellness level. And so when I do eat foods that impact me, they don't impact me as severely as they used to.
Now, that's one of the things that I wished I knew 10 years ago was about the severity of the foods that we eat that are sprayed with pesticides and herbicides and chemicals. And now, of course, we have so much of our food is our food is genetically altered. And then about 6 years ago that I took a hard position where I was not going to eat genetically altered food. I was only going to eat organic food. And about 3 years ago, you decided to make that choice then for your life. And so, I moved away because I saw what was going on in our food system. And this, again, because I was watching documentaries and I saw how, for instance, I love corn, and how now 13% of the corn that's grown is organic. 87% of the corn that's grown is genetically modified. And they literally put pesticides in the seed that they plant in the ground, so as that corn grows, that no pests are going to come and eat it and bother it.
Yeah.
And so those pesticides put in that corn are there to kill the bugs. And what do you think they do to people who eat this corn?
Well, it's got to impact you somehow, because if it's killing the bugs, then it's damaging you on some level.
And people who are drinking beverages with high fructose corn syrup and things of this nature.
Yep.
And so I started to realize, that I wish now, 10 years ago, I knew then to get away from anything that wasn't organic. I really do. Yep. And so then let's move on to the next section, and that is in the area of work and wealth.
Excellent.
Wealth. We'll go back talking about work first, because 10 years ago, I was self-employed. I mean, I've been self-employed all my life. And, but, there are things that I wish that I unattached myself to quicker, because I had a business that the state basically came along, changed some regulations, and they said, you can no longer build this business, but we're going to let you continue to serve your customers, because you've got thousands of customers. We can see that. You just can't go out and get new customers. And I would get typically in a year, I'd get 500 to 1,000 new customers a year. And I had been in business for nearly 20 years at that point, and I had a lot of customers. And so they said, well, so we want you to go ahead and service your customers as long as it's financially viable for your business to survive and do that. But we are no longer going to allow you to get any new customers. And so that then created a situation where I died a slow and painful death in that business. And so as far as my work then, I really kind of wish that I wasn't as attached to that, because I was attached to my company. I mean, I built this from company business. I built the whole industry in the United States from the ground up. There was not that industry when I started, and people from Europe, where this industry came from, they came to me wanting me to build this industry with their products and so forth. And it was quite an honor. But, so I had a lot of attachment to it. And I hadn't read the book at that point, 10 years ago. I hadn't read the book about attachments.
Right.
And it's called The 5 Levels of Attachment. And so I really wish that I had known that. The things that I read in that book and things that I learned in that book, because, when you read a book like that, you don't just suddenly change overnight, and now you no longer have any of the attachments that really don't serve your life very well.
No, but it plants the seed and it moves you in a new direction.
That's right. And so at least you start on that journey. That would have been a journey I wish I knew earlier, is to just get rid of those attachments. And I think that my life would have been a lot better over the last 10 years, just getting rid of those attachments.
I think for me, the biggest piece is separating out that my value as a person was tied to my work. And that if I had my own personal self-worth aside from my work, then it's kind of the same thing. I wouldn't be so attached to my work. I would feel like I had personal value, and then I had work value. And they're two separate things. But one of the things that we are taught is that we deeply invest our own personal self-worth in our jobs or our employment or our business. And then if something goes wrong, we lose our job, something happens with your business, whatever, then that impacts you as a person, and your personal self-worth goes down the toilet. And that's what's happened to me over many, many years, that there were things that happened in different jobs or different work, or things transitioned, and other people in my life devalued me because of those work issues.
I just had this picture in my mind, and that is, we get out of college, because we went to college, or you get out of high school and you start your work life, and you are gung-ho, you're excited. I mean, you're going to make your life happen. You're going to create your life. But then over the years, just every single year, it's like someone comes along with a big old axe, and there you are, a big stellar tree. And they come along with this big old axe, and they just take some chops away at that axe. And then slowly, now you're still there standing as a tree, but there's a little less of you. Because they took a chunk out. And that's kind of how a lot of people experience in their work. They may be just loving their job. They may have a new job they're just loving. And they may love their coworkers and their boss and everything else. But, nothing ever stays the same, and things change. And as things change, it's that axe that gets swung, taking those little chunks out of you.
That's right.
It doesn't take the chunk out of the job.
No.
It takes a chunk out of you.
That's right. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as time goes by, those chunks get taken out of you. Some people, their tree falls, crashes.
Yeah.
Other people, though, they survive, but they're damaged.
Yes, that's right. And again, that's because we're attaching our personal sense of self-worth to that job or that employment or that business.
And so that's why then, because I had business, and I had success in business, but yet I did not have wealth and freedom. Okay. I became a slave to my own success in my industry.
That's right.
And so I didn't have the kind of wealth that I could have freedom with. And so that's one of the things that we really try to take and put emphasis on, is helping you to create a life where you are creating an abundance and you're creating freedom, so that requires some wealth.
That's right.
Creation.
That's right.
And so we want to help you to create that wealth. And, over the next 10 years, there's no reason whatsoever that you cannot have and develop the kind of wealth that your coworkers and your neighbors and your relatives and your friends are going to look at you and say, like,
where'd that come from?
They're just so lucky. They got so lucky. We're not talking about winning a lottery or anything like that. Your chances of that are that's we're talking about taking and doing things in your life that allow your life one step at a time. You create and build your life. So there's sure things, and things that, if you don't want to walk away from your job, then you don't have to walk away from your job. And so we coach you through. We have opportunities. You can get involved with us, but it doesn't have to be our opportunities.
That's right.
We're just going to coach you for what works best for you in your life, because maybe what we have going on in our lives is not something that really works with you, suits you very well. And we want to help you to really explore and discover your ability to create a life where you're going to have wealth, and the kind of wealth that will give you freedom and an abundance.
Absolutely. Excellent.
And that's not what we get in our work world, even if we are in our own business. And it takes a different thought process, a shift of how to do things and structure things differently, because it's all about how you structure it.
It is.
Okay?
Yep. And just very quickly, 10 years ago, I worked a 40-hour-a-week job, very traditional schedule. And today I work my own schedule. I choose my clients. I choose when I want to work. I negotiate with them. We come to agreements, but it's not them saying this is what I need and I can only take what they're giving. It is both sides. And I have much more freedom and much more say in my weekly schedule than I've ever had in my life.
Let's talk about this for just a moment now. And what I want to talk about is just kind of how you got here, okay? Because see, you had this job in Seattle,
I did.
and you know the job was giving you a paycheck, and you're going to work and paying your bills, and you know Monday through Friday, 40 hours a week, and that whole thing's going on, right?
Yeah.
And so then that job came to an end. But you know, just like what you had done every time before, you just shift to a new job, you know, and you've done pretty well in your life where you shift and you try to always shift up a little bit, you know,
at least laterally, if not upwards.
And if you moved laterally, then that get at least opening doors for you to shift up, you know, and so that's how those things work. Well, so then that particular time you were looking to make a big shift up.
Yes.
And one of the things that we were talking about is we're going to be moving here to California. Did not know how things were going to necessarily work out, but what that meant is to begin with is that you just got rid of a lot of shit.
I got rid of about 90% of everything that I owned. 90%, all gone.
And I went through the last 3 years of my life. That's why I spent 70% of my time. I had a whole lot more stuff, you know, and I spent the last 3 years not selling my stuff, just getting rid of the stuff and fixing my house up and things like that, so I could sell my house. And so one of the things that people don't understand is that stuff they have. Again, it's those attachments.
Yes.
And that stuff they have, it's not bringing them happiness. It's not bringing them freedom. It's keeping them bogged down. And how freeing was that to just move away from Seattle and really need nothing more than a little tiny truck because you didn't have much stuff left.
It was the most beautiful experience. It was so wonderful. And it was something I truly manifested. I really wanted to completely change my life. And I knew I needed to come back to California for several reasons, but I ended up manifesting through a lot of the practices that we use of how to think and talk about what it is that I wanted, put it out energetically. And I landed
what is the life you want?
The place that I dreamt of for 2 months. Exactly the place, and everything has worked out. Everything has worked out for the last 3 years. It has been amazing.
When we got here, then you at that time thought you'd still be, you know, going out looking in the job market
for a job,
and then, you know, she went out on the interviews, and I think that, like Mike Dooley talks about, that when he went on his interviews, that just told him that he wasn't meant to go to work for in a job. Okay,
I was done,
and so that really started to tell you that you were done. But then so it's like, okay, but then what's next? You know, it's kind of a scary thing.
Have something.
But because you had downsized your life. Okay, you didn't need $3,000-$4,000 a month just to survive on anymore.
I didn't.
We rent a room in this condominium, and so that we don't have the whole place, you know, and it's worked out just beautifully.
It has.
And then the thing came along, though, it was like, okay, but you don't have enough money coming in to pay rent. And today there are so many options. Remember I said earlier, give yourself options. And so you started giving yourself options.
I did.
Why don't you tell them about that?
So, well, some of it, people would say, you did things you should never do. I cashed out retirement. It was money that was set aside for later in life when I needed it. Well, it was later in life and I needed it. So I cashed out some of that money. I ended up buying a new car with that money, which then allowed me to be an Uber driver, which was a great source of income for a year.
When you went to work for this little preschool
and
for a
I
while.
I started with the preschool, and that gave me some options. That gave me some income coming in.
And you started to think, wow,
Yeah.
maybe I could do this. I mean,
Yeah,
I could make some connections with some wealthier people.
Yeah.
And with those kinds of connections, then maybe that someone needs nanny services.
Yeah. Yeah. So all those little things started sparking. And when that started sparking, then I put it out there and I ended up getting 3 nanny clients on top of that. And 2 of those clients I'm still with today. And that's been over 3 years now.
And so that's what Mike Dooley talks about. And he's an author that we follow. And he says, you've got to put your sail up. And when you put your sail up and you then untie the lines from the dock, so you are ready for the wind.
Yep.
The wind is going to come along.
The wind does.
and it'll fill those sails. So then you can go to the destinations that you're wanting to go.
That's right.
Okay.
Absolutely. And that's what we've been doing for the last 3.5 years.
Well, almost, because you when you first got here, you were still like in interview mode. And all
it
that.
started before we moved.
Okay,
but we were setting the seeds before it came.
Because she kept seeing my life and seeing the freedom that I had, and it was like, I've thought about some business ideas before, and I thought about these business ideas for 20 years, so we went out and we spent some money and we tried some businesses that didn't work out. Yeah. But like also our coach, Chris now, our mentor, he says, you've got to get moving. Yeah. It doesn't matter what direction you move in, because once you are moving, your course can be altered.
That's right.
But if you aren't moving in the direction that you want to be heading, even if you're heading in the wrong direction, then, if you're not moving, I got to sit here and wait for the right direction.
Nope. Then you're just stuck.
You're stuck. And we know what that's like. We've both been there. Like. Okay. And so you just got to start to move. And as you start to move, like if here we are in California, let's say we wanted to go to New York City. Yeah. And if we wanted to go to New York City and we start going down to Texas and then, Alabama and,
we're still at least going east.
We're moving.
And we're moving.
And so as we're moving, eventually we'll learn that we've got to go that direction,
Yeah.
And that is exactly how you start to create a life that you love the most. Yeah. The life that we have today, we couldn't really imagine loving our life today more than how we love it now.
This is so true.
So
true.
And yes, that doesn't mean that there's not more things that we want in our life. There are things we want in our life still, because we want you to create a life that you love the most, but you want more.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. So we got to move on because we're.
Yep. And so then we're going to go on to the next thing, and that's relationships and sex. And so here again, then I'm going to go back to attachments and also limited opportunities, because in my marriage, that I was attached and I had blinders on. I could only see, well, we've got to stay married. We've got to be married, and I didn't really see how unhappy my wife was. Yeah. And then she finally decided here, 5-6 years ago, that she was then going to divorce me. Yeah. And she lived for 2 years after that, and then she died, which is unfortunate. Yeah. But the point is that one of the things that I wish I knew 10 years ago is how good it can be to get a divorce. Yeah. And it's only because of our attachments and our self-imposed limited ideas and beliefs that we then stick ourselves to, and we have this misery we go through. Oh my God, I'm a divorced man. I remember going through that and feeling that I can't tell anybody, feeling ashamed, and I'm a failure in my marriage, like, okay, if you go out and buy a new car, is that a failure in your driving? Are you a failure as a driver? You didn't make that car last your whole life. How about a new job? How about a new house or anything? Yeah. Why are we stuck with these relationships? It's because of these monogamous religious ideals that you've got to have your one and only, and it's got to be the rest of your life, because you can't have sex but with one person.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was his
That was mine.
pathway.
Yeah. Well,
Mine
as
was a
you and
little
your
different.
husband's pathway too.
Well,
Your husband wasn't going to
once-
say,
Once I got to that point, but I was actually headed in
Before
a different
then, you
direction
were,
before
yeah.
I met my ex-husband.
and that was unfortunate.
Yeah.
But because you were
'cause
heading,
I was headed in the
you were
to where I
having a
am
really
today.
good time. Yes.
I was actually on my way to where I am today of being an ethical and consensual non-monogamous woman, an openly bisexual woman that really enjoys sex, that loves sex, that wants to enjoy multiple people and to find those multiple relationships.
You took a little 25-year
I
detour.
took a 25-year detour, so I understand how those structures are so strong in our society
Mhm.
that they can derail you from who you really are, your authentic self. And when you give in to those societal expectations and conventional thinking, then you shut yourself down.
Mhm. And that's really, I guess, my hope for this video is that we're just here to plant some seeds. Like when I first started to telling Kat that she doesn't have to be on those prescription medications.
That's
I
right.
didn't tell her that she had to do like I did or anything. And I mean, the fact is, I was also doing a juice fast for 10 days out of the month, I believe
That's
it
right,
was.
you were.
And she took one sip one time of the juice that I was drinking, which is a green, very nutritious, but she's just like, she has never done that. Okay.
It's
juice
not
juice
my
fast. So
thing.
it's not her thing. And she doesn't have to do that.
No.
And so, you find what works for you, not what works for me. And so that's what was working for me at the time, but she has then found what's working for her. And so with you, whether it be to understand your attachments, your attachments to your limited knowledge and your limited belief, whether that be your knowledge about your food supply and sources. I didn't know that GMOs were bad for me. I didn't know that pesticides and herbicides and like in Kat's digestive issues that she's had over the last couple of years, I am totally 100% convinced that it is because of all the garbage that you ate, which was genetically engineered and modified. And because there's a lot of research out there to show how gut issues today are all on the rise. They have exploded like 2,000% from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And the reason for this is our genetically engineered food supply. And
I agree with that.
And so that's what messed you up. And now it doesn't get fixed overnight.
Nope.
But we have fixed
We are
lot
on
of
the
it.
better pathway now.
And the same thing, with you deciding to be self-employed instead of being employed. Again, that wasn't an overnight process either. You saw my life. And then we moved here and, you started thinking, well, maybe I can create that. And we've gone and created some things that didn't work out. But that's like, okay, we're moving.
We are moving.
And as long as we're moving, and it's just amazing how things have come together for us and connected us with the right people when we were right for that.
That's right.
Our mentor today is just like the things that he teaches and the things that he says are things that I have been teaching since way before that I knew you.
Yeah.
And I've taught these things to her then. And I've said for years that she's been my best student, but I didn't have all the pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And suddenly Chris comes along in my life and boom, he has all the pieces.
Yeah.
And I'm just like blown away by it. And now we're able to take those pieces that we've got and we're able to help you in your life. And so it doesn't happen overnight, but by just today, we're planting some seeds, and it may be a bamboo seed where it takes 5 years to grow.
Good. Or a cacao plant.
Or a cacao plant, where it doesn't look like there's anything going on much for 5 years, and suddenly you get a crop.
Yeah.
Or it could be a tomato plant where, in a matter of a month, you start to see a lot of things happening.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of different seeds. And we're just wanting to plant some seeds here today so that you can live a life that is abundant and free. And then that includes in your relationships. I know a lot of my audience does not have relationships that are abundant and free. And when I opened my marriage 13 years ago, it still wasn't abundant and free because it was very restricted and very limited, because that's we brought a lot of our monogamy into our relationship with us. And there was even a lot of books that were instructing people how to do this. And you create a lot of rules to protect your insecurities and to protect your partner and all this. And it feeds to the weakest of you, not to the strongest and the best of you.
That's very true. And
so that's the thing with the relationships, that a lot of our viewers don't have, they may have a non-monogamous relationship, but those non-monogamous relationships aren't free.
No.
And
not to the degree that they really can be. And that's something that we've really created between us that we now can teach you. And
it's really about liberating yourself. It's little steps, little things you need to liberate yourself from this and this and this, one step at a time. And so we take you through our processes and help you to liberate your life so that you can have a truly abundant and free relationships and abundant and free sex life.
Absolutely.
Okay, anything else that you'd like to say?
I think we're good for tonight. Thank you for watching.
Thanks for watching with us tonight, and have just a wonderful rest of your day, whatever that involves. And don't forget to click on the links down there in the description box. Click on the like button and also subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much.
We'll see you soon.